So now anytime that you are wanting to stop some certain behavior, whether this is, drinking too much wine, eating excess food, smoking, drugs, and pornography, whatever it happens to be, there will always be, every single time, an uncomfortable feeling that comes up, which I would call a craving for this thing. So it doesn't matter what it happens to be, there's going to be this uncomfortable feeling that comes up. And it comes up and it tells you, go and do this thing. Whether that's the feeling of, I need to have a glass of wine right now. That feeling that comes up, that need that comes up, is what this craving is. Now, if you would pay attention to it, that feeling, it's telling you, to do something, but it's actually got a much deeper message. And so if you tune into this message, this is how you can correct this behavior, because we think that these things are just directing us. I don't want to eat that chocolate bar, but that feeling comes up, and so I give in, and then I just keep giving in, and I figure, okay, I'll start tomorrow. This is typically how most people who have addictions behave, right? You wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, today I'm not going to have that wine. I'm not going to smoke those cigarettes. I'm not going to do that thing. The day might go good for a little bit, but then that uncomfortable feeling comes up, and to make it go away, it's the easiest thing you can do to make it go away. You just have to give in to that feeling, to whatever it's telling you to do. As soon as you give in, that uncomfortable feeling goes away. So here's the thing. You have to be brave enough and strong enough that you can sit in that really uncomfortable feeling. And if you tune into it and you listen to what it's trying to tell you, there's going to be a message for you there. So when I work with my clients who have any kind of addiction, so this, is anything from food to cigarettes to drugs or alcohol, whatever it happens to be, we bring up that uncomfortable feeling that you get there, and we follow it back to when it began. Now, I wish that I could just tell you, this is where your issue came from. You were 13 and these kids were hanging out and you wanted to be part of the crowd. So, this is where it came from. It's possible that exactly what I said is where your problem came from. But everybody is so unique. This is usually very, very unique to you. It could have come from anything. It could be telling you anything. But this is how you do it. So if you don't meditate, this might be tricky for you to do, but you can go to the mental cleanse series that I have out there. Pick the one that seems like it would suit you the best, something that you need to work on the most. It'll take you back, because most of the work that we do through that mental cleanse series is regression, meaning taking you back to when something began, going back in time. But when we find the source, so when you take that uncomfortable feeling, this is what I do with my clients. We bring up that uncomfortable feeling when my clients are in a subconscious state. And by a subconscious state, you go in and out of this state many times just throughout a normal day. You go in it when you're driving, you go in it before you fall asleep, you go in it when you wake up in the morning, when you're reading a book, when you're watching TV, you're in and out of this many times throughout the day. And I know some people say, well, I can't do this because I can't meditate. You can meditate. It's really just about taking yourself inward. So this is what I would have you do. Let's say that you crave wine, and come whatever certain time in the day, you need to have it because that feeling comes up, and it only goes away if you give in. Okay, now next time, before you give in, just don't give in for, half an hour. Just don't give in for half an hour next time. And sit in that uncomfortable feeling and just become very aware of it. Now, when I say become aware of it, what I mean is to, first of all, close your eyes so that you're taking these distractions that are, in your room and all around you away from you, and just focus on your breathing for a little bit. So just take that physical feeling that you have, let it be present there, and just kind of focus on your breathing for a little bit. Now, that craving, that need to do that thing or to have that thing or whatever it happens to be, will physically be felt inside of your body. Now, you might have noticed this before, but maybe you haven't noticed it to the extent of which you could notice it. So if you were to close your eyes next time that feeling comes up, and just breathe and really notice the places inside of your body that are holding that tension, that tightness, or that tingling, or just that different feeling. What body parts kind of come to mind that you can physically feel that craving in. So now what I would do with my clients is we would then follow that physical feeling that you have in your body all the way back to when it very first began. We would then deal with whatever happened to be there. More than likely, but not necessarily, it will be some type of negative event. So maybe something was said to you, something was done to you, something was going on in your house and it made you feel a certain way. There was some type of feeling that came up, and typically it's something that made you not feel very good. So what we would do then is deal with whatever it was that happened to come up. And in a session, we would change the perspective of this, right? So let me give you a pretty common example. Many people would regress back to childhood. So let's say your living situation, how you grew up, wasn't picture perfect, as it typically is not for anyone. Although, some people maybe, those people don't usually come to me. So if you're listening to this, I'm guessing your childhood was not 100% perfect. Maybe it was really good though. Maybe that's not where your issue is coming from at all. But very often, people will regress back to childhood, and maybe let's say their parents were fighting, or their parents weren't home, or there was some kind of uncomfortable feeling that was there. Maybe as a child you weren't supported. There's just so many things that could come up in childhood, but very often, and I'll just use this example, let's say perhaps there was fighting going on in the house. Maybe dad was being mean to mom, or vice versa. And so then that child who is experiencing that takes on certain beliefs about themselves. So they could take on, from that example, they could take on beliefs like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not deserving, or this is my fault, or, there's just a ton of different beliefs that could come from that. Now, if you think about that now, you're like, well, of course, maybe that was true at the time, but I wouldn't still be holding on to that because, that wouldn't make any sense. I know that was a long time ago. Now, the thing about it is that typically is the case, that we don't think that we have held on to these things because consciously we haven't, because we can consciously talk ourselves out of them, but subconsciously, some belief came in and it stuck and it's stayed now. And it is there permanently until you go into the subconscious again and change it subconsciously. Now, why does this usually happen with kids? It happens with kids because we are in that subconscious state so much more often. We're in that daydream world, which our subconscious mind is that daydream world. And when we're young, when we're under 7, our programming is really taking place. And so the things that we believe and that we think and whatnot become a permanent part of who we are until we change these things. So if there's something in your life and you're like, I just don't know why I have this problem, you could talk about it forever. You could go and you could tell someone, hey, I have this problem and I want to make it better. But if you don't actually change it subconsciously, then your problem is going to be there. You might come up with some kind of coping mechanisms. You might be able to talk yourself out of it now and then, but it will still be underlying and it will still be present. And if you don't deal with it, let's say that you get rid of, this one addiction, well, more than likely you are going to just start doing something else that's going to replace it. And you're going to believe about yourself, because it's proven to be true, that you have an addictive personality. Now, you do not. None of us were born with an addictive personality, no matter what they tell you. I have never once in all of my practice had somebody regress back and say, oh, it's just genetic. It's not. Your genetics play out because you're mimicking your parents' behavior, or you're gaining beliefs like your parents did because they say certain things, they treat you a certain way. And so these things seem like they're genetic, right? Because you're depressed and your mom was depressed and maybe her mom was depressed, but it's the behaviors that you're seeing. It's the way that you were treated and the beliefs that you have about yourself, not because your DNA is doing this. You can change these things. They're not permanent. They're not who you are. They might be who you are right now, but they're not you at the core of you. And the way that you change these things, any addiction that you have, is by healing past traumas. That is the way that you change it. That is the only way that I believe that you can change it permanently and not have it replaced by something else that you then are like, okay, well, I don't smoke anymore, but now I got this shopping addiction, or now I got this whatever addiction going on in your life. So when we heal these things, that is when those addictions to things go away, because that uncomfortable feeling, it's just trying to talk to you. Your body is trying to tell you something, and it's really telling you at the core of everything that there's something that needs to be healed and that you need to accept and love yourself. I know it sounds so simplistic and so cliche. Oh, you just need to love yourself more. But it's true, because if you really, really love yourself, you're not going to poison yourself with excess alcohol. You're not going to poison yourself with cigarettes. You're not going to cause yourself financial hardships by having some type of, shopping addiction. You're not going to damage your relationships and your physical body and your potential by being addicted to porn or things along those lines. If you really love yourself, what would that look like? So if you think about what that would look like, well, it would look like you caring for your body, caring about not only what you put in it, but how you treat it. Maybe that would look like getting some exercise. That would also look, and this is the biggest portion that matters, it would also look like positive self-talk. It would look like you being confident and thinking highly of yourself rather than thinking, oh, I can't quit this or that, I can't do anything right. That's not going to get you anywhere except deeper in a hole, right? Because when you feel bad, let's use this as an example. If you are feeling bad, that is when your addiction to whatever it happens to be rears its ugly head, right? When you're feeling good, let's say that you're out with friends, you're having a good time, you're this, you're that, unless, there's alcoholism and you can't even envision yourself out without drinking, then that's something else we'll talk about another time. But when you're out and you're having a good day, you're surrounded by the people that you love, your addiction is the last thing that's on your mind when things are going good. It only comes up when there is, either some downtime. So all of a sudden now you got to sit and think. Well, as soon as you think, what's going to come up? Well, we don't want to think about these negative things, so we're just going to go and smoke, and we're just going to go and have our wine, and we're just going to go have this or have that. The only time it comes up is when there's that lull or you're not feeling good. People who are addicted to food, you'll notice this. So let's say that that's you, that all of a sudden something stressful happens, something bad happens. Well, what do? Your mind immediately goes to food. What can I eat? Because there is temporary relief while food is in your mouth. While you're chewing it, while you're enjoying it, there's a good feeling that comes, right? Your mind is distracted. You're thinking about that delicious food that's in your mouth. But what happens? You swallow it. And as soon as you swallow that food, that good feeling of relief is gone. And now you also, on top of that old feeling, have a feeling typically of guilt or shame, of thinking, oh, I've done it again. I can't do this. I can't get a handle on it. Well, just know that you're not alone in this, that there is millions, but essentially anyone here on this planet who has not healed themselves will have some type of behavior that they are addicted to, whether that's full-time or part-time. But it's something that when they're not feeling great, it comes up and they're having to deal with this thing. Now, the way that this goes away, the way that we heal this is through subconscious work. So when I'm saying to you subconscious work and you're like, okay, great, well, what do I got to do now? I got to pay you to fix it. Well, yes, you totally could do that. But subconscious work is the work that is done in our subconscious mind. So this is pictures and images, which is why, meditation would be considered a subconscious activity that you could be doing. Our subconscious is working through feelings. So the feelings, the physical feelings, the emotional feelings, all of those feelings that you have are subconscious. Now, they say they've done studies. There's no way to know. I honestly, they say that the number is about 95% of what you do in a day is subconscious. I believe that it is higher than that because every conscious decision that we make is running off of some type of subconscious programming. So, here's an example. Let's say, what do you feel like having for supper? How many times have you said that in your life? What do you feel like having for supper? Well, you say that because it is a feeling, right? And feelings are all subconscious. So even though you might choose to have tacos, this is all predetermined because that feeling that you have there is telling you what to have. Now, some days you don't have a feeling. You don't really care. You're like, I don't know what I want. Okay. Well, when it's not based off of some feeling of this is what I feel like having for supper, then yes, you've made a conscious choice. But even that could be determined off of something else. Like, okay, well, I'm consciously choosing to eat good, clean, healthy foods. I'm going to, pick this healthy thing over this unhealthy thing, even if the feeling is not there. Even that is based on your subconscious programming of how it is that you want to treat yourself. So all of these things, in a roundabout way, I believe, come from the subconscious mind. So it is the place that we should be going to heal these things. I know in my life, I have worked with hypnotherapists who have helped me greatly. Let's say I have some kind of issue. I'm not wanting to deal with this thing, to have this negative thing in my life. Like, okay, I want this gone. Well, I'm going to call one of my hypnotist friends and I'm going to set up a session and they're going to help me like that. I'm talking in a session. We're going to be set. We're going to be good. Now, also in my life, I have gone to therapists. And what has come from that? Yes, there is positive things. There's definitely a place for people who just practice normal therapy. They can help you. They can help you, give you resources and tools depending on, if you're going through some kind of transition. They can help you with things. But there is nothing, and this is based on science, there is nothing that is faster at changing the neural pathways in your brain than hypnosis. There's nothing that's faster. So I'm going to go to the thing that's the fastest and get my issues dealt with. Now, here's the difference between what I do and what many hypnotists do. So I practice regression, and I know several years ago it got a bad name because there was, people regressing back who clearly were obviously not trained properly to be working with people, because you could lead somebody down a path of a false memory. But there's ways that you do that, and there's ways that you absolutely avoid doing that, which I, with my clients, am going to avoid any kind of misleading anything. We do the same thing every time. We're following the feelings and the physical sensations in your body back to when it began. And then whatever happens to pop up, there's no memory implanting going on there. It is you telling me what's coming up, and we're dealing with these things, and then we're healing them. Now, other hypnotists use just direct suggestion. They're just going to show you a better way. Now, this works wonders. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And yes, you can definitely go that route. But I have found that if you really want sustainable healing, so that you're not running off of that old programming that you have from those traumas and the past, even past lives, any of those things, you have to go back and you have to heal those things when and where they began so that you can start with the slate clean. Let's say, and I have so many clients like this that tell me that they've, just been a little bit sad their whole life, that they don't ever remember really truly being happy. Now, when we go back, when we regress back, sometimes, people will go to the womb. So yes, you wouldn't recall your life ever at any point not feeling just a little bit sad because maybe you didn't feel wanted or didn't feel loved. And there's probably a reason for that. Something probably happened when you were in the womb. Of course, you can't consciously remember this. But when you go back in a session, in a subconscious session, into the subconscious mind, then these things come up. Sometimes people will regress back to infancy. They've been left in their crib. I'm guessing, to cry it out or whatever it happens to be. I've seen that a few times as well. And the thing with this is that there is no way for you to justify in your mind, why I feel this way if you've always kind of felt just a little bit sad, if you don't know where it's coming from, because it does feel like that's just who you are because you've never known another way, even though that's not who you are. It's something that happened and some type of programming and belief that came into your mind at some certain point, and it just stuck and it's just stayed with you. And so the way that you heal this, in one session, this is the work that we do is we're going to follow these things back and we're going to heal it. So now, okay, this issue's healed, but maybe you've had, 9 or 17 different incidents in your life that have programmed different beliefs into you. And if you want to get rid of those, well, you're going to have to see all of them. So in a typical private session, when we're working, I might regress somebody back. Totally depends. It could be 3 times. It could be 10 plus times. It depends. It depends on the person. It really depends on what we're trying to accomplish. If you were part of the IFF, the Inner Freedom Formula, well, there's that assessment on my website, and there's a pile of things on there, and we are going to go back and we are going to check off all of these things on this list every time. But some people only come to me because, well, they've been sad their whole life, or they've been worried their whole life, or whatever it happens to be. Well, that's not going to take very long to actually change and correct and accomplish something there. But if you're wanting a total overhaul, we're going to regress many, many times in one session. So what happens here if you want to create changes, but you don't want to come for a private session? So I'm just going to tell you that when you write, your writing is a subconscious activity. So, if you had to study for an exam, here's a hot tip: don't type it out on your computer. Actual handwriting is subconscious. It goes into your subconscious mind. So this is something that you can then do for yourself. You can do something called automatic writing. So next time that you have that craving for whatever it happens to be, if it's wine, if it's a cigarette, if it's porn, if it's you want to spend some money online, whatever it happens to be, you got a gambling addiction, there is that feeling that is going to be there. So next time it comes up, tune into it. Just stave it off 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes. Just, you can tell yourself, I'm going to have that drink, but I'm going to give it 5 minutes. And so you're just going to sit in that uncomfortable feeling, and you're going to tune into it. So you're physically going to feel it inside your body. So when that feeling comes up, just tell yourself, 5 minutes, sit, close your eyes, just breathe and feel that feeling inside your body. Now you're going to ask that feeling a couple of questions. First of all, you're going to ask it, why are you here? And when you ask that feeling, why are you here? It might say, well, because I want you to have a glass of wine. Say, okay, why else are you here? We're trying to get in deep. This is what we're trying to do. So as you ask it, why you're here, you're then just going to write whatever comes to mind. You can't get this wrong. It's your own mind. It's your own thoughts. It's whatever there. You don't need to doubt yourself. If you have something totally random and weird and strange come to your mind, It's also right. It came up to your mind for a reason. So just ask yourself, well, why are you here? Okay, next question. What are you trying to tell me, or what do you want me to know? Wait for an answer and just sit there. It might take you 30 seconds. It might take you 2 minutes to have something pop into your head. Probably not that long. It might be automatic. You might have something come in your head. And you're just going to write down whatever it is that happens to come to mind. Now, then you're going to ask it, is there something that I need to learn from this? And then write down what comes. And then you're going to ask yourself, is there something I need to let go of or heal around this issue? And then just write it down and see what comes. So now here's the thing that happens when you do this. If you were to do this for 7 to 10 days, so this is not a lot of your time, 5 minutes a day. If you were to do this for 7 to 10 days, for just 5 minutes a day, sitting in that uncomfortable feeling, what you have done is a pile of subconscious work, first of all. So this is going to create growth. You're going to get some kind of learning. You're going to start to learn that your body is talking to you, and you're going to learn the language of your body. You're going to be able to understand it. You're going to be able to communicate with yourself and cause personal growth for yourself in a good way. Second of all, you will have then taught your body and your mind that you don't have to give in to these things. You will have taught yourself that, okay, well, I didn't die by not having a glass of wine for 5 minutes, so it's okay. You're going to teach yourself that just because you have a feeling doesn't mean that you immediately need to act on it. You're going to essentially create some maturity inside of your mind, inside of your body, and inside of your behaviors, which is going to be beneficial in many, many areas. You're going to realize just how strong you are that you haven't given into this thing. So then you're just going to notice, what it is that you wrote. Once you've done this for 7 to 10 days, kind of go back and look over your notes and just see what's all there. And it will probably be something that's just very interesting and very fascinating to you. And whatever issue it is that maybe came up to mind, maybe by the end of that 7 to 10 days, it won't be an issue for you anymore. If it is, if it's, brought up some kind of feelings of, okay, well, I know where it's coming from, but these feelings are still here. If you don't want to book in for a private session, because when people come to me, they resolve things so quickly. If there's one issue that's going on, it's going to be resolved in probably a session, maybe maximum 3. But if you're very open and you're very honest and you want to get in and you want to get to do the work, it's going to resolve really quickly. But if you don't want to, just look at what feelings that exercise brought up. What is it that you need to work through? Then go to that mental cleanse series on YouTube and pick the corresponding video. Okay, maybe you got guilt that's come up. Maybe the whole reason that you're, drinking wine every day is because you feel guilty about this thing that happened. Probably not. It's probably because something else happened, but you just never know. Whatever it is, go and find the corresponding video. And with that in mind, with that intention in mind, work through it with the information that you already have. Another benefit from doing this, of you just tuning in, is essentially this is kind of a form of meditation. It is a form of meditation. And so you will have been doing your brain a favor. You will have been, creating things that you'll be able to use this in the future for any issues that happen to come up. So let me just tell you what I do with myself. So I have been working on things for 8 years. So there's no past trauma that has been left unturned. I'm healed from it. This is why I can manifest things daily. I can create good and wonderful things in my life so quickly. And when something happens that is perceivably, not ideal, rather than get super upset about it like I used to in the past, I just think this is going to pan out so good for me. The reason why this happened is because, something so much better is going to come my way. And so it's very easy for me to recover from anything that happens, because essentially there's not really anything to recover from anymore, because I just already automatically have the belief and the knowing that whatever happens to come, it's going to pan out for the absolute best, so much more wonderful than I could have ever dreamed up. So it doesn't matter what happens to be, it's going to be something good. Now, how I've done this was healing all these past traumas over the last 8 years. I was working with my one friend, a wonderful friend of mine, and we would exchange sessions, doing this type of thing for each other. So after I had a few enlightening experiences over the past couple of years, I now can maintain this beautiful feeling that I have. There might be an odd day here or there that is a bad day. I've had 3 in the last since the start of March, 3 what I would consider bad days. But even then, I don't see them as bad days, because so much good came from them. But let me tell you what I do. So since these things have now been healed, when I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, what percent of heaven am I living in? Typically, on average, it'll be about 98%. However, the last couple of days, it's been at 99%. So I'm like, okay, what is this 1%? Because, or 2%, it's not good enough. So I'll ask, what is this 2%? And whatever happens to pop into mind. Okay, maybe the word sadness will come to mind. Maybe the word anger will come to mind, whatever it happens to be. So then I do what I just told you guys. I tune into that feeling. I physically allow myself to feel it. So it might take a little bit of time. This is before I get out of bed. The first thing I do when I open my eyes, and I'm still laying in bed, still on my pillow, I'm asking myself these questions. I'm tuning in. Okay, let's say it's sadness. Okay, well, I'm going to close my eyes again, and I'm going to feel that feeling of that little bit of sadness that is there, and I'm just going to let my mind drift back. So what I do with clients is, I have them take a nice deep breath, and I tell them, okay, I'm going to count from 5 to 1. You're going to follow this feeling all the way back to where it came from. So that's what I do with myself. Take a nice deep breath, follow that feeling back to where it came from, and then whatever happens to pop into mind, I'm going to resolve whatever happens to be there. I can do this pretty quickly because I'm talking to myself in third person, like I'm one of my clients. I'm walking myself through it. It might take 10 to 30 seconds to work through whatever it happens to be, or to release or let go of whatever feeling or whatever belief was there, whatever needs to heal. Okay, and then once I've done this, I'll just immediately feel my energy lift back up. Okay, I'm at 100%. Okay, I can get out of bed now. So this whole thing, depending on the day, will take anywhere between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. Might not even be 30 seconds, just depends on the day. So what I do with my clients, when we work in private sessions, we're going to heal this past trauma, and what it is. You know how you grew up. You know the things that are your issues. And when we look at the assessment, those things they're all correlated. When these numbers go up, these numbers go up. When these ones go down, these ones go down. As we heal these past traumas, but we're going to use that assessment as a good guideline for if the healing has truly been done. Have we healed all the things in the past, all these past traumas that need to be healed so that you can be free right now? And as we do that process, if you're working with me through the IFF, the Inner Freedom Formula, this is, successive sessions that we're working, and each time we're just getting in deeper, we're releasing more traumas, we're healing more and more beliefs that have been limiting you, whatever it happens to be. And as we work through these, you are learning, how to do this for yourself, because you're not going to need me forever. You're going to be able to do exactly what I do with myself once we've got through this heavy stuff. But, we need people. I didn't used to think that. It was like, no, I'm not going to somebody. I can do this all on my own. You know what? That's why there's billions of us here. is because we need each other, and that there's some gifts that some of us have, and those gifts can really help other people. Whether an energy worker and this person has really helped you with this or that, or whether you had sore muscles and you had to go and get a massage, or whatever it is. The people here on the planet that are in your life, that you come across, that you stumble across on social media or in your daily life, these people are here for a reason, because we're supposed to be a tribe. We're supposed to be a community, and community has changed because of social media and people not leaving their house. That whole idea of community has changed a little bit, but sometimes we just need that help. We just need those people. So this is why if you can't come for private sessions, this is why I've helped by making that mental cleanse series, so that hopefully this is something that you can do with guidance from the outside, but for yourself, until you get to that point of, okay, I've done all of this and there's just maybe this thing left that needs to be worked through. But so I did it. So it's free, because I wish I would have had something like that available to me when I was going through everything that I was going through, that personal growth journey. I wish that I would have had that. So anyways, everything that I make, you guys, is always made with love, as always. Love you guys. So just a quick recap. Tune into the feeling, that addiction that you have. Physically feel it inside your body. Locate it. Sit with it. Don't give in. Only 5 minutes for the next 7 to 10 days. Don't give in. Just for 5 minutes. Don't give in. Feel it. Ask it those few questions. What are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? Is there anything I need to let go of? Whatever it is, maybe you come up with some good questions that you have for that feeling too. Write them down before you tune in. And then just automatic writing. So ask yourself one question at a time, and then just write. See what flows out of your hand. And do this for the next 7 to 10 days, and just see where you're at in 10 days from now, and let me know in the comments below. Please like and share this video with any friends or family that you feel could benefit from it. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel, and for liking, and for sharing, and for commenting, and for subscribing. Love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.